Welcome to the Northwest Property Podcast, a podcast dedicated to capturing stories and insights from real estate professionals and driving collaboration in the local community. All right, we're back with another episode of the Northwest Property Podcast. My name is Tony Dunham. I am the host and co-founder of Mosaic Studio, and we're here with Lance with Soldera Properties today. This is our 10th or 11th episode, and just like the last one, this is a great opportunity because I just met Lance today. So this is going to be great. So Lance, give us a quick intro.
Yeah, Lance Weinard. I'm a real estate agent here in the Oregon and Southwest Washington area. Soldera Properties, the Vibe Group. Vibe Group's a new thing for me, so nice. super excited about that.
Yeah,
done a lot of good things already with that name. Yeah, I've been a realtor for about 10 years and loving it. Loving it.
Awesome.
Serving our communities.
Yeah, and we have a mutual friend, Nash Baranaga. I've known Nash for 20 years through my family. He's been a really good family friend, and he was actually super instrumental in helping me build this business. And so I've learned a little bit about Soldera, and I really like the vibe of Soldera, like the way that you guys present yourself is just cool. I like the marketing. I like the kind of feeling of that group. And it's interesting for us because like we work with so many different teams. We work with PPG on a large scale. We work with Hardcores. We work with all these different companies. And it's just cool to see the differences. And I know you've kind of, moved a little bit, but what do you like about Soldera?
Soldera is amazing. It really is. I've been on some good teams, but I would say Soldera, how they stand out is they go above and beyond for their agents.
Yeah.
And they're selective. So that, we're able to know that whoever is under the Soldera umbrella,
right,
that we can feel confident in going to them and that they have the same kind of interest in their clients.
Kind of culture and morals and values and stuff. That's really important. Especially I don't know how big Soldera is, but it feels a little smaller, more like kind of a boutique. And when you have a good culture, that just helps you guys stand out and help each other out. That's part of the game too. So
we have about 50, there's about 50 agents there and we're trying to grow. I mean, it's not that they're satisfied at 50.
Yeah.
They would love to grow Soldera. It's just finding quality agents with like minds to come aboard.
Well, it kind of speaks to like who you are and how you want to be represented, because some people are like lone wolves and they don't care they'll be a part of a big company, but on their own. And some people are really entrenched in the value prop and being part of the team and those meetings and stuff like that. So it's just, there's something for everybody, but it's interesting to like learn more about the industry and how people adapt and how they move around and all those type of things. So how did you get into real estate?
Well, I was back in the late 90s. I was actually going through my apprenticeship to be an appraiser. So I was interested in real estate way back in the day.
Yeah.
And there were some challenges with the market in the late 90s that apprentices really got to, we lost the opportunities.
Yeah.
Because they didn't need us anymore. So I had to find my way, had a young family and everything and went some other courses, but eventually found it back out, got into sales by a really good friend of mine, Ben Andrews. He pulled me into the industry, and I've been here ever since.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
And I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, I'm always curious because everybody has a different path into real estate. Or into their career, like my wife is a high school teacher. She's been doing that for 14 years. And I've bounced around in a bunch of sales roles, but I've always had real estate like in the back of my mind and I just didn't know where I fit. And so for me, it was like a longer road to get here, but I'm really happy to be here, and we're connected to, agents and brokers and I get to learn so much from people like you. It's fun. And who knows where it'll take me. I mean, I definitely want to get into rentals, but I don't know, I got all these things going on. So that's like the next step, but I got to like justify that risk at this point. But it's always interesting to hear people's path. Did you grow up in the Portland, Vancouver area?
grew up right here in Milwaukee.
All right. Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I grew up in Milwaukee, graduated from Milwaukee High School in 93.
Sweet.
Went to Clackamas Community for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And aspirations of being a professional baseball player. And that was killed by a ski accident.
Oh,
So,
man. Wow.
yeah, it was stupidity on my part.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the decisions of an 18, 19-year-old is not always the best.
Yeah,
So,
totally. Well, I went to Gladstone. I grew up in this area too.
right.
And it's funny because I moved all around and then ended up back in the same place because it's comfortable. I like this area. And it's a really good investment area, I think. I mean, it seems like it's still affordable, but things are really starting to move. And I take my kids on walks around the neighborhood. I see a house and I'm like, what's that? What's going on there? And it's cool to see this, like, the environment growing and adapting and evolving. Although I will say downtown Milwaukee still needs some work.
I agree.
They got the farmers market, which is awesome, but we got to get some more businesses down there. Oregon City is going crazy.
Yeah. Main Street of America there in 2018, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, Milwaukee, we were down there at the farmers market here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, man, it was better when I was in 1993.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like it really needs some life behind it. They
Yeah.
even have two roads there that, I can't remember what the street is, one street over, but they've got a lot of real estate there that they could really make a big impact. I mean, it's right outside of Portland.
Yeah.
The accessibility to downtown Portland is great.
Yeah.
When they did the park, I thought that was going to be the turning point, all that real estate along, 99.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get some movement there. I
Yeah.
think there's a monopoly though. I think there's a couple companies that own like a couple 6 blocks right there. So they've kind of held on to that for a long time. But I'm hopeful and I like this area. I think it's great. Going back to what you're saying about the ski accident, and I don't know too much about it, but I was thinking about this. I went snowboarding for the first time in like 12 years last winter. And I was like, I picked it up like I was, never stopped. But my risk tolerance is totally different now. Like I'm like afraid to get hurt because it's been a while. I haven't had any injuries or anything. And now I got 2 little kids and I'm thinking about all these things. And I'm like, wow, this is so different than, I used to just go as fast as I could. And now I'm like, okay, slow down, take a little bit off here. So
I don't trust I don't trust myself enough yet.
Yeah.
I think I would still probably just go at that intensity. When it comes to the sports, I just have a hard time letting off.
Yeah.
Even slow pitch softball. I'm still diving. I'm still sliding. I'm still doing that stuff. So I just have to either not do it or be willing to risk.
Yeah.
So
well, and I'm obsessed with golf. I golf as much as I can.
Yeah.
And now it's just funny. I mean, I'm 38, but it's like, why am I so sore all the time? I'm like literally sore every day. I'm like, what did I do? I went golfing. This is like ridiculous. It's just your brain doesn't catch up with your body for a while. But was your accident pretty serious?
Yeah. I blew up my shoulder.
Man.
So I'm lucky to be alive actually. Yeah. So I'm happy that it was just my shoulder and not my head.
Yeah.
So
shoulders are the worst too. I'm dealing with that right now. I got a old shoulder injury that just keeps nagging. I started doing acupuncture though, and it's been a total game changer. Like I've gone every week for the last 8 weeks and it's night and day. Like even after the first appointment, I was like shocked. Because I've tried physical therapy, I'm trying everything to not get surgery, but this is like the only thing that's ever helped. And they create inflammation to bring new blood flow to the area, and it's like night and day. Because in your shoulder, I mean, you look at like the diagram of a shoulder, it's the biggest mess.
Oh, it is.
It's like your pec and your bicep connect to this other thing. It's just and then those tendons are like cut off of blood flow, so they create a new blood flow in there, and it's been night and day. So check it out, man.
Yeah, I mean, I work in the world of referrals, so I'd be happy to take that on and see if I can do any
great, man.
Good for my body.
Yeah. So as you've been in this industry, I always like to ask people, I mean, there's so many ups and downs, there's so many variables at play all the time. Like what has helped you create like that wherewithal and that drive to, go through these storms and continue doing what you're doing.
Because I'm a learner. I adapt to change pretty well,
Yeah.
and I like to challenge myself. I like to be a subject expert.
Yeah.
And when things are always changing, it forces you to do that. And so I love it. I love change.
Yeah.
I don't like to be complacent. I don't like to sit still. And so
Yeah.
it's a good industry for me for that. It drives my wife a little nuts because
Yeah.
it
Totally.
can be very up and down,
Yeah.
but it's something that I love. And so
Yeah.
that's why I keep doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that it definitely takes a certain type of person. I mean, even for me, like I knew that I couldn't live in the corporate world anymore. I didn't want to. I didn't want to like
Mhm.
be the guy always asking why we're doing stuff. I wanted to create something different and my own, and have that
Mhm.
passion and drive behind it. The flip side of that is it's definitely hard to like manage that and turn it off sometimes when you go home
Mhm.
and you got family and people depending on you,
Right.
and
Right.
your brain is like over here, and you're like,
Right.
okay, I got to put it over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So have you read the E-Myth?
no,
Oh, you got to read it. It's great. It just talks about how you should not wear so many hats and have people help you wear some of the hats.
yeah,
And so I encourage you to read the E-Myth. One of my
yeah.
good friends, late friends, Mike Harn, referred that to me years ago, and it's a difference maker. It's a difference
I'll definitely
maker.
check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always. I mean, I'm in the same way. I'm always looking to grow and evolve and learn and be a lifelong learner in that capacity. And you just have to learn a lot about yourself before you jump into certain things,
Mhm.
because I get super obsessed and crazy and passionate, which is like the best and the worst thing, right? It's you got to manage the beast sometimes. Otherwise, like I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, if you talk to my friends are like, Tony's crazy. Like he's always just fired
Oh,
up
yeah.
about something. I wake up just like, what are we gonna do today? I
Yep.
can't
Yep.
be complacent. And I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of like deep learning and therapy and stuff to figure out like why I'm that way, because it's not always the best outcome.
Right. Right.
But once you kind of have a good idea, you can watch out for those caution signs in the road, to help you kind of be who you want to be. And so that's a
Right.
big thing too, is like thinking about who you want to be,
Hmm.
and then take what you currently are doing and figure out if it fits or doesn't
Right.
fit, or
Right.
how you evolve. And we've talked a lot about this as new business partners, and like I might be always the crazy guy, but like I'm gonna every once in a while I've got some good ideas.
That's
Every
right.
once in a while I don't, but you got to know who you are and explain that to people and be like, are you ready for this?
That's right.
You know?
That's right. So I'm also reading right now Atomic Habits, which
Oh
is
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah.
We're just getting into
I
it.
thought I might have that over here somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yes.
one.
So we're just getting into that. That's where I was right before here, in a book club.
Nice.
And it just talks about making those micro adjustments and being in love with the process.
Yeah,
So really knowing what you want, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying,
yeah,
and being in love with what you're doing, and your goals will just come. So
yeah,
goals are just like an end result. But a system is long term.
yeah. You
And so
gotta
you gotta
manage the chaos a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, adjust your microphone just a little bit. Just when you turn your head, it kind of cuts out. So maybe that way a little bit. There we go. That should work. I think
That
that'll-
better?
Yeah.
All right.
So when you think about, like where you are today and how you got here, are these like traits that were always ingrained in you, or did you have any like mentors growing up that kind of taught you about this, level mindset around passion and all these things that you kind of, the traits that you have today that make you successful?
I would say sports probably had a lot of
Yeah.
good coaches.
Yeah. No, that's huge.
Good coaches, just competitive nature.
Yeah.
I don't like to settle for last or second.
Totally.
I like first.
Yeah.
So there's always someone better than you, and I'm always trying to catch that person,
Right.
no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just that mentality from sports is probably what I did. And then, my dad, he was in manufacturing for 35 years. And so he taught me just consistency, just show up.
Right.
Show up and you'll get what you want. He got to retire when he was 52 or 53.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 3 years. That's 3 years from where I'm at. And
Right.
I'm not going to retire in 3 years. So he
Yeah.
did, I'm aspired just by, sticking with something that you love to do. And I don't know if he loved it or not, but he stuck with it.
Right. Yeah, that's
So,
interesting too. I mean, like for me, I kind of have to do something that I'm passionate about. I
mhm,
can't be just like, a cog in the wheel or just show up and,
right,
do the same thing every day. I've got to have some nuance and some variety to it.
right.
But then, that there's also the balance to that as well, because there's always shiny new things and there's different opportunities that have opened up for us so quickly.
Mhm.
And so I have to like sit down and look at like what the original vision was, how the vision's evolved, and where does this new shiny object fit or not fit into it. And that's been really hard for me to like figure out, because I don't like to say no. I like to take on a lot of chaos and figure it out later, but
Right.
it doesn't always replicate the vision of the business. And when I'm looking at our business, it's like I want to be a good steward of the business, and I have to look at where the vision is and where it's evolved and what the next chapter looks like and
Mhm.
how we stay on course.
We need to stay we need to stay in contact because I'm going through the same kind of thing right now.
Yeah.
Real estate is evolving always.
Yeah.
Opportunities, I don't like to bypass an opportunity. And when
Yeah.
something I am presented comes, I don't want to say no. And so that forces me to learn something new really quick.
Right.
And then it does stretch what your initial goal was,
Right.
or your initial mission statement, or whatever your business was initially set up to be.
Yeah.
And so this is, for me, it's much the same.
Yeah.
I took this survey, and it came back and said that I was a creator. So much, probably a lot. You would
Yeah.
probably end up being a creator.
Yeah.
I just like to continually be creative with what I'm doing and find different ways to do business. And sometimes you're too broad,
Right.
sometimes you can be too broad. And so I've had to step back a little bit and just say, okay, where do I really want to go? Where do I want to put my energy, and what systems do I need to put in place,
Yeah.
to make this happen?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you could just like us, like you could come into this business and do what everybody else does and be consistent and and do okay. You could do well,
Mhm.
right? But there's a part of my mind where I think about it and I'm like, I came into this and I'm like, there's so much green space for us because people think that we're a service provider, right? But we have the opportunity to be so much more than that,
Mhm.
and nobody's doing it.
Mhm.
And so I looked at this as like, we're going to do a couple little things right out of the gate that are different.
Mhm.
People recognize those. And now I can tell them that we're your partner. We're not just someone you call when you need photos. We are the people that I'm the connector of people. I've got agents in different areas of town with different specialties. I've got a person that can do landscaping or contract work or inspections. I've got all of these people in my little ecosystem now,
Mhm.
and we're the last people that you thought would ever do that. And so
Right.
I looked at it as like, this is a great opportunity to redefine the space. Of course, you have to look at, what your product and your end result is, like make amazing media.
Yeah.
But all the things I do to surround that, I was just telling Alex, I went out to a photo shoot yesterday with a client I've never met before, showed up, talked to them a little bit, just got to know them, talked about my process, walking through the house, how I take photos, what I'm doing, all these things. They didn't even see my photos yet because they're coming out today.
Mm.
And they already contacted me for a partnership opportunity. They want to highlight us and showcase our work. So
Fantastic.
you didn't even see my photos,
Right.
which they're going to be good.
Right.
No problem there. But those little things that I do differently transcend and showcase who we are, because people
Yeah.
buy people first, right?
Yep,
And so
absolutely.
if I come out there and I show you who I am and what I care about, and I'm talking to you and learning about you and what you're passionate about and making cool connections, like that is something that is innate to me, but in the industry, it's not, right?
Right.
And so little things you can do that make you stand apart, and that's your business all day.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
trying to break
Yeah.
through this mold of getting through the noise, right? How do you find people where they are and tell the right story?
Right.
And so when we tell stories and we do like work with different partners, we talk about like, who are you outside of real estate? What do you care about? What are you passionate about? And then if you do that through social media, now you're the expert.
Mhm.
Now you can be the expert, but you can't just come out there and be like, rates are this and da da da. Like they're like, who's this guy?
Right.
But if you tell a story of who you are and get that emotional connection, then they'll listen to you all day.
Right.
So
Right.
those little things, like for us, I always try to have two people on site. One of us is just hanging out, talking to people, and one of us is shooting videos.
That's good.
It's like simple,
Yeah.
but nobody does that.
That's PR.
You know? Yeah. It's because I
Yeah,
care
yeah.
more about a transaction.
Yeah.
You know, and just like for you, when you sell a home, that's not the first and last time you see those people, the
Right.
buyers or the sellers or whoever,
No.
or even the other agent, right?
Right.
That's a connection. I mean, sometimes it is. You're like, whoa, this,
Yes.
it's not the
Stiff
right
arm
fit.
that the next time I see that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't want to walk through their
Yeah.
house again. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But also, it's like, you know, it's almost like, I don't know. Some people might think it's like mind games, but I tell people things naturally, like while I'm just having a conversation, but it's also training them on how I want to be treated.
Right.
You know, like I tell people, we're looking for partners. We're not looking for transactions. It has to be the right fit.
Right.
And while I'm telling them that, I'm also like making sure they understand that, like act accordingly. This is how we
Right,
want to be treated.
right.
You can't just treat us like we're the help. when we
It goes
show-
back
you know.
to treat
Yeah.
others as you want to be treated.
Yeah.
You know? So
So there's all these little things that I've kind of done over the years in different, you know, sales environments that work really well in different industries. And half it's just like being a good person, treating
Right.
people right,
Right.
explaining things, you know, and you know, asking people permission to ask questions. Hey, do you mind if I ask you questions to better understand X, Y, and Z? And they really appreciate that. And then they'll tell you whatever they want.
yeah.
You
I
know?
know that in real estate, a lot of the challenges that the public has is just trust.
Yeah.
And so I think full transparency is what a lot of people in our industry fail to do, to be. So, you know, having the hard conversations, you know, walking through everything with them so they really know what they're signing. Because
Right.
you know, most contracts
Yeah.
aren't really looked at,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important they understand what they're signing. And I think that's what kind of is one thing that stands out with me is I do go through those contracts with my clients just so
Yeah.
they know what they're signing,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and we were talking about
people
those,
appreciate
those
that.
AI tools. That's so great to
Yeah.
like, you know, be able to adapt and, you know, cater to different learning styles
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, cause sometimes it's like your first day of a new job
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting all this stuff thrown at you and they're like, does that make sense? Or you go, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then you go home and you're like, I have no clue. Like what, you know, because you're just, your natural human response is to say yes. Right.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, it's so important from your point of view to gain that trust out of the gate so that they don't even need to know. I mean, they do need to know, but when they trust you and you're working on their behalf to make the right decisions for them based on everything they told you,
Right.
you know, there's already so much emotional fog going on because you're looking like, okay, we're going to live in this house. Is this good neighborhood? You're
Right.
thinking all these things. Then you got all the contracts and all the money moving around and people digging into your money. And
Right.
you know, there's
Right.
so many things. So you got to
Yeah.
find good partners, but also you just have that trust and that ability. What are some things that you've kind of adapted over the years to you know, navigate that space?
Well, I just think not limiting my time with my clients,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes it's you know, you can get those express agents where they don't really give them the time.
Right.
And so I can't speak for all discount agents, but you know, a lot of those agents don't necessarily serve them well or
Right.
serve them the way they deserve, you know.
Yeah.
On a seller standpoint, you know, they're paying a lot of money to have you work for them. So they deserve top-notch
Right.
service.
Yeah.
So, you know, I sit down with them. A lot of times that initial just walk through or meet is a couple of, you know, an hour and a half. And a lot of times it'll be 2 or 3 before we even list the house, even if it's the next week.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm more face-to-face than over the phone. You know, it really depends. You kind of got to meet the client where they're at because maybe they're as busy as you are, and it's
Yeah.
like text is better. But
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, you know. I've never been super stressed out about buying houses and selling houses,
Right.
but it's because I've really thought about it ahead of time on my own and was
Right.
like ready to sell or ready to buy or whatever. But people are in different places. One of our last guests we were talking about. Sometimes you'll meet up with someone and the husband's ready to sell and the wife, you can tell she's not really there yet, and it's like, oh, how do I navigate that? That's a big
That
challenge.
is a challenge.
Because then you don't want to feel like you're selling someone to make a big life decision, but you gotta like
Right.
massage it out and let it marinate a little bit and come back around and ask some more questions and so I always think that it's good to ask permission to ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it shows your intent and it helps you get what you need and them get what they need and just kind of bridges that gap versus just assuming everybody's on the same page.
Right. Right. And actually, you need to know them. So getting to know their style, so you can meet them where they're at. Are they an engineer? Are they, do they really, how much do they really care about the facts, or do they just want to get it on the market and they trust you? Like, so you got to really learn your client and meet them where they're at.
We deal with that sometimes, even with sellers. Like some people humans are so different, I had a guy the other day that was like super like abrasive when I got there. But then once I like talked to him for a while, he was cool. But it was like, whoa. He was like, who are you? And I was like, I'm here to take photos. My name's Tony. And but it was like, that's a first impression.
Right.
Yeah.
I always try to find that common ground. I'm always scanning.
Yeah.
I'm always scanning. So see a Beaver poster or cool
totally.
shoes or something.
Yeah.
I always try to find something.
Yeah.
To comment on positively, and that always breaks the ice.
Well, it was funny too because his name was Tony, and so when I was like, "Hi, I'm Tony," and he's like, and it took his guard down. I'm like, "I got you," and I was like, "Cool name, man."
Yeah, that's right. I got you for life.
I was like, "They don't make many of these."
That's right. That's right.
So there's always those little things, but well, cool. So so do you kind of cover everything? Like, do you focus on a certain type of home, or you just kind of cover the because some people are just luxury. Some people are just turn and burn. Some people are, a little bit of everything or right in the middle.
Yeah, I'm basically just single family residential right now, transitioning into commercial.
Nice.
We've got our first commercial listing down in Hubbard right now.
That's
Which
sweet.
is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And been connected with quite a few investors in the last couple of months just by networking.
That's great.
And the importance of that.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to grow your business.
A really good point. Yeah.
So, and that's where I'm trying to transition part of my business. I'm not going to get rid of the residential, but
right.
Yeah. So just transitioning and
is there a lot of like intricacies that you've learned in the commercial space that are way different, or is it just?
It is quite a bit different. Yeah, there's not nearly as much emotion.
Right.
It just, does it pencil? Does it not?
Yeah.
Rent rolls, all kinds of stuff that you just don't have to worry about necessarily. Right. With rentals though, I mean, you do deal with that for single family homes, but commercial is a whole lot different.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot different. It's a different beast and it takes time to learn. So
I bet, man. Yeah. Well, there's always, growth opportunities and it's I bet that's fun to like scout out what's coming up. And, we've been a part of some of those where we're doing longer form documentary type things of building new commercial spaces and stuff. It's very interesting. And there's so many people involved. Mm-hmm. That's what's probably really challenging for the builders, developers is like, you always got a moving timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at some of these development timelines and I'm looking at everybody that's involved and what the timelines look like. And then I'm like, well, let's keep pushing this out and, gauge our expectations and hold on to these damn files forever. Because if you format those suckers, you're done.
Yeah.
So that's been a thing for us, but
so what you're doing a lot of new construction then?
Yeah.
That's cool.
We've been doing a lot with the Francis downtown Lake Oswego, that new luxury penthouse property, and seeing that from nothing to beautiful spaces. I mean, that thing's like porcelain through and through. It's beautiful.
That's crazy.
So that's been a lot of fun for us. And like I said, I didn't know, you don't know what you don't know, and it's hard when you're kind of like, I'm kind of a yes guy, right? I like to
Right.
get,
Opportunity.
yeah.
It's
So
opportunity.
it's just gauging those opportunities and pricing appropriately and knowing, like we're doing a flip right now. That's like 10 videos over 6 months and a bunch of other supporting media and knowing how to price that correctly and expectations. And,
Hmm.
it's like every Friday we go out there and see what they've done, which is cool. It's just different. So it's just
Right.
adapting our style and expectations and all those things. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So what do you like to do outside of real estate for fun?
I'm a big traveler.
All
I
right.
love to travel. So my wife and I like to get out of town. We like warm places. So a lot of times it's either Mexico or um, Caribbean.
Yeah.
This last year, not this year, but last year, we went on an Alaskan cruise with our kids, and we were like, Alaska?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah. It's like another world over there. That's
But
crazy.
oh, I'm so glad we went.
Yeah.
Like it was a cruise, one of the first cruise lines that went up into Alaska. So still snowy. We had snow on deck. But we got to see glacier. We went to Glacier Bay, saw a glacier fall,
Yeah.
just got to go dog sledding.
Super cool.
So we love the outdoors. We like to be outside.
Yeah.
So outdoor spaces are kind of a big deal to us.
Nice. Yeah. How old are your kids?
22 son, and then 24 and 26,
Wow.
two daughters. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And then two married in daughters. That
Yeah.
are 23 and 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
All in the 20s.
Yeah.
I can't, I have a 1.5 and a 3.5 year old. So
It's fun. That's fun.
it's very fun. It's been more fun the better I've got at it. At first I was like, what is happening with my life? Like
There's no guide.
Yeah.
There's no guide.
It's one of those challenges where you're like, when you sit down and think about it, it's rewarding and fun. But sometimes when you're in it, you're like, I don't know how I can't breathe right now. This
Right.
is just full chaos.
Well, those early
You know?
years, those early
Yeah, you
years.
see, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. But then, like my wife and I, we went on vacation for 5 days with no kids,
Mhm.
and the first day we're like, we miss them.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how that works. But
Well, I can tell you that they notice your hard work,
yeah,
and so they're sponges right now.
totally.
So I would, don't stop working hard. Make sure that you have a good balance, but make sure they see your hard work,
Yeah,
because that will show through them
totally.
down the road. So,
Yeah, it's very interesting, like the whole dynamic of it. I mean, people tell you all these things, right? You kind of listen, you kind of don't, and then you hear all the things they told you are kind of coming to life in front of you. Like they grow up so fast and all these things, but I think it's really cool to have the opportunity to, like I said, like if you're thinking about the person you want to be and you're working towards that, you can do that through parenthood as well.
Mhm.
And giving them all the things that you didn't have, or thinking about those things in a bigger picture is really cool when you sit down and think about it. And it's also doesn't always work out. You try to do you try to,
Right.
like, my daughter is so stubborn and hard-headed, and I cannot figure out a way to break it sometimes, like break through it. And I'm trying all these reward system, or like not reward system, or whatever, and you're trying to, like, it's a crazy puzzle to try to put together.
Yeah, and they're all different.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
not
gotta
like
be
you
cool
can.
though. Like, now that your kids are, in this other stage of life, they're in like the second chapter, and you get to see where they're going and how they're adapting to the world and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, they're doing some good things. I got a grandson. He's 5.
Wow.
So he just
man.
turned 5 in June. So
That's gotta be cool.
it is pretty cool. It's fun watching him grow up. He's playing t-ball now, and
Yeah. And you can give them back.
pretty special. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Wear him out, give him some food, give him some candy or whatever, and
Yeah. Send him on his way.
send him on his way. That's right.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
little stud. He's a little stud.
That's cool. Yeah. And like our daughter is definitely not the athlete, but our little guy, who's 1.5, I can tell he's already crazy athletic. Like,
That's cool.
His coordination and stuff. It's wild to see how different they are. But well, that's great,
fun.
man. Yeah. So yeah, we like to travel a lot too. We were really fortunate. We did something kind of crazy like 6 years ago. We took 6 months off and traveled through 26 countries.
Wow.
So we were really fortunate to, have that opportunity. It took a lot of hard work and a lot of, risk,
Uh-huh.
because it's like we're leaving the world behind for 6 months. And so we had to work our butts off to do it. But probably the coolest and best decision I've ever made.
Wow.
I mean, now we have kids. It's a lot more complicated.
That's great.
We've thought about taking them internationally, but it's going to be a couple of years,
Right.
But
You
yeah,
can
that was,
homeschool or
I think
whatever.
it's so important for people to see the world, and see different countries and people and interact with people and, get down to the ground level and figure out, what you have and how the world works.
Right.
It really opens your eyes and helps you with everything,
Yeah. Appreciation to what you have.
Yeah.
How can we help other people?
Yeah.
That
Well, it gives you a
cultures
total
too.
perspective too on like how small our country is and how much power we have. It's
kidding.
a very eye-opening thing. You're like, whoa,
Mhm.
and we always try to, do a bunch of local stuff. Like we'll take the walking tours and meet the local guides and like go to the local spots and get really entrenched with, the
Right.
local people. And that's been super, awesome for my life just to understand things on a bigger picture.
Was it all Europe or where'd you travel?
From London all the way to Singapore.
Oh,
So we went this is so wild, but we took a map out and just mapped out where we wanted to go and then started drawing little zigzags and made the whole map. And then we kind of booked things, like every 3 countries we would start booking the next stops. Cause I didn't want to be like pigeonholed into one place and then have to leave early.
right.
And you can get around with trains so easy. So it's just about booking, a couple countries ahead of time, but most of it was just train, and then we got to, we flew a couple short flights and stuff, but yeah, we went like all the way north from like London, Ireland, Sweden, Norway up there. And then we went all the way back down all the way through Spain to Portugal and then zigzag up the other side and then over to Greece and then like northeast Europe and then all the way to like Cambodia and Thailand and Singapore. So it was
What a trip.
it was awesome, man. It was the coolest thing. I mean, we basically we were just still like dating maybe like a year or something, and we were like, the world's going crazy. We saw a lot of the disruption with like when Trump got elected, just seeing how our society changed so dramatically. Like politics aside, just watching people go crazy and divide and all. And I'm like, whoa, this is not what I want to go see the world before we can't, who knows what's going to happen.
that's
We
true.
could create some
That's true.
bad stuff. And so, I was like, let's do something crazy, and so we took, I think it was like 4 or 5 months and worked second jobs and then got our house rented out and took off.
Dang.
So yeah, it was like one of the coolest experiences of my life, and definitely want to travel some more. It's just going to be a couple of years before we get back on that train. Going to San Diego was like a big deal for us,
I
5
bet.
days with no kids. So
Yeah, that's nice.
that was pretty awesome. But
Well, I got something to add to my bucket list now. I might just have to do that.
well, and the
That's-
other thing too, I always tell people is like, pictures are great, but if you can journal, like I journaled the whole time I was gone, and then I turned it into a travel blog.
Oh, cool.
And so you can go back and read all of that and like see what you were thinking and more than just photos, because photos will distort in your brain. You're like,
Right.
I think we were there or whatever. But if I'm
Right.
telling a story, and I found a new love for writing, it was kind of cool. I was on Wi-Fi for 6 months. So I was just on trains, playing cards with my wife, hanging out, just like getting to know each other. We got engaged in Paris while we were gone. And yeah, it was incredible, man.
Pretty magical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So when you think about real estate and you think about all the time, you're 10 years in, right?
About, yeah.
Yeah. So do you think about, can you remember like your first sale and what that was like?
I do. I do. And luckily it was with a really good friend.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Practically family.
Yeah.
So
So that's nerve wracking.
Yeah,
you're
it
like,
was.
it's even more with your friend. You're like, I don't want to screw this up. There's all this
Yeah.
paperwork I got to look at. And,
yeah, the good thing is they were really patient. And
Yeah.
so they knew where I was at. I was close enough to them to know they knew what was going on.
Right.
So it wasn't that I was, hey, world, I'm a real estate agent and a friend came to me. It was actually, he knew I was going through it. He said, hey, we want you to list it when you get
Yeah.
licensed. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, great. So
that's cool.
I started on a really good team, with a really good principal broker that helped me through the process.
Yeah. That's huge.
And I think as a new agent, that's really big.
Yeah.
I mean, so I got a good start, good help, good mentor, and yeah, just kind of push through it. That's just kind of like I said at the beginning, I'm a learner. I love to learn, and I pick it up pretty quick. And so I just applied myself, and put myself completely in their shoes to see how I would want to be served.
Right.
And
that's huge.
Yeah. And just being transparent and just not have to know all the answers.
Right.
And I still don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's probably really challenging too. Like being an athlete and a competitive person myself, it's hard to look at a market like real estate and set your goals appropriately, because what you've done that works, but there's so many variables surrounding all of that. Like, how do you do that? How do you do your goal setting every year?
Goal setting, I've done it a couple of different ways. I've went on train trips up to Seattle and just spent, a few hours sitting there going through different questions.
Yeah.
Do I want to be volume? Do I want to be transactions? What do I want in my business this year?
Right.
I'm always trying to do something new every year in my business.
Right.
So that was a goal that I implemented a few years ago, or not a goal, but a process, I guess.
Yeah.
Going back to Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
It's not a goal. So, the last 3 years I got my principal broker's license. I got, Washington license.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you. You're dually
licensed. Yeah.
Thanks.
Approved to go to Tennessee. I'm potentially moving to Tennessee eventually, so
cool.
I'm starting to go that direction a little bit.
Nice. Yeah,
So
there's a
that's
lot
fun.
of development going on there. I've been to Nashville a couple of times, and I always see new builds and new Airbnbs popping up and all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of potential there. But yeah, I think it's challenging because, you almost have to set those goals that are not numbers, right? Like, what are the like Atomic Habits? It's like, what are the behaviors, like behavioral goals I can implement that I know are successful, that might not be fun or cute or whatever,
Right?
But they're the things that you do in the quiet, like that nobody sees, that you're doing behind the doors that help you. So that's always interesting, like your mindset. I mean, for us, it's different because I look at a lot of numbers. Like I like that stuff. So it's like average order value, and then how many a month we're doing, and knowing that we're going to make our most money in 8 months. And then we've got, what do we do in these off seasons? So looking at retainer deals, or how can we help clients, with ancillary stuff that they can use and reuse. But it's always evolving. You got to take a step back every once in a while. You have to set a day. I try to set a day once a month, just to sit and quiet and go through all that stuff and not have anything else that's coming up on my plate, because I got to really dedicate that time, even though it's kind of boring, or just there. You might not even think there's something there,
right?
But just having a couple hours once a month to look at everything. It's like Game of Thrones, looking at your battle board.
That's right.
You got your map, and you're like, okay, you're gonna go there, and you're gonna go here. And,
Yeah.
For us, it's challenging because we're trying to run our business with I call it the MVP, the minimal viable product. How much can I achieve with how less of people or resources or whatever?
Right.
And then you get to a point where you're like, well, now we have to make this change. And is it too late? Trying to hire people in the busiest season, trying to switch our CRM over in the worst time of the year.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. Last year, I was presented an opportunity to get a couple of new agents on my team.
Yeah.
And initially I was not expecting to, this friend of mine came up to me and said, hey, there's my daughter's boyfriend. He just got his license and he's struggling, and I would love for you to meet with him. And I said, sure, I'll mentor him a little bit. I'll give him some words of advice or whatever. And he ended up coming and met with him, and he walked away and he goes, I don't know if you're trying to grow a team, but I'd love to come work for you, because I love your heart. I love your just where you're at with things. And your direction's awesome. I think you're going to do great things. Right. And I'm just really excited about what's in store for you.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting that. And then he goes, "Oh, by the way, there's somebody else that wants to come on board."
Nice.
And I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if I can handle this. I was not prepared. I mean, I wanted to grow a team, but I wasn't anticipating that. So
Yeah.
I had to shift and go, okay, I can't pass up this opportunity. I got to figure out how this is going to work and what this looks like. So on the fly, just kind of going to what you're just saying,
Yeah.
like, oh boy, how do I make this work? I need to find work for these people.
Right.
I need to help them create their own work,
Right.
you know, and teach them at the same time and keep my own business going. So, you know, it's just interesting when you're confronted, or not confronted, but when you're given opportunities, how you adjust.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a huge benefit there, though. I mean, what people don't see right out of the gate is so beneficial is when you're training someone or teaching someone anything, you're teaching yourself at the same time. And so all of a sudden you're like secretly dissecting your thing, your process, your mentality, all these things as you're teaching someone.
Yep.
And so you it's like double benefit.
Yeah.
you know?
Refining.
And then you get to see them grow and learn and adapt and evolve. And you're like, that's so cool. I was a part of this journey and I taught myself something while I'm explaining it.
Right.
You know, like I was talking to Alex like about a golf swing the other day, and I was like, I didn't even realize I did that. You know, like I'm like hinge your wrist here and turn your hips and point your knee down, and I was like, oh, and then I hit it. Great. I was like, sweet. I needed to teach myself that while I was teaching somebody else. But
Right.
I've done a lot of coaching and mentoring through my sales career, and it's been so like rewarding in the end. And I think that's the big thing with real estate, especially, is like everybody sees this thing of what they think it is, but it's very counterintuitive because you need to be a good person, a good steward of your own business, a good relationship person with people. It's not about like Range Rovers and Ferraris and jets. It's you know what I mean? But like that's the people think this, and you have to really like tease out a lot of stuff when you're talking to someone like that. Like, why are you doing this?
Right.
Where's your passion? You know, and what inspires you outside of this business that you can go, you know, aim your arrows at? Because if you don't have something else that's driving you, you're going to burn out because it's not going to be that cool when you're not selling anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And if that's what you really do want, are you willing to put in the work to do it?
Yeah.
Like, and that's, you know, inconsistently.
Yeah. Well, and there's,
so,
I mean, it takes all types of people, right? Some agents are, you know, I just got to sell 50 properties a year, dude, and hit this number or whatever. It's
Right.
like, well, when is that going to fizzle out?
Yeah,
You're gonna
exactly.
get bored and burnt out and tired. And if you don't hit that, then what happens?
Right.
You got to have the backbone with the passion and the desire and the drive behind it to see it as a bigger picture of your life versus just
Right.
this short-term goal to make whatever Instagram reel you want.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah.
And that's I've found it to where, you know, I enjoy the process of what I do.
Yeah.
I love, you know, I don't know if you're familiar, but Brian Buffini and company is a referral maker. And so that's calls, notes, and pop buys.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I do client parties. And a lot of times I did a really cool one, actually. It's probably my favorite one I've ever done. That was a guys' night out, whiskey social at the office.
Oh, nice.
And so we had, I think, about 15 people there. Guys just come in. They brought their favorite whiskey.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a slosh fest or anything. It was everybody just brought their favorite to share,
That's cool.
breaking bread with people,
Yeah.
creating relationships. And the connections between people that didn't know each other are still going.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's all about is
Totally.
creating relationships.
Yeah. I love
And that's what I
networking
love
stuff.
about.
Yeah.
That's what I love about my job.
Yeah.
Is doing that kind of stuff.
Okay. We're going to take a quick little break and then we'll jump into the second half here.
All right. Sounds good.
This podcast is brought to you by Mosaic Studio. Mosaic Studio is a full-service media production agency covering all your real estate needs and helping you sell homes faster. Visit mosaicstudio.us for more details or to schedule a consultation.
All right. We're back with the second half of the podcast. And let's just jump right into it. Go for it.
All right. Well, my question to you
Yeah.
is how'd you come up with Mosaic?
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
So I, I had opened my own company a year and a half ago, and I was still learning a lot. Like I learned photography. I did a bunch of travel photography, but I was learning real estate photography, getting into the space, really wanting to get into video. But the learning curve was just insane. Like my videos were okay, and Nash will tell you, I did some videos for him in the beginning that I was like, I'm just going to give this to you for free, dude. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But then I met Alex and Seth, and we started talking and collaborating. I had a couple of shoots that I was not able to be around for. So I was passing off work to local people. And as we started collaborating on different ideas and stuff, I was talking to Alex, like, we got coffee one day. We just never stopped talking after that one day.
Gotcha.
And I was like, we could do something bigger and better. Like if we can take my, expertise in the sales world, we take your video skills, your photography skills. You guys know more about this landscape than I do, but I can bring in something different.
Right.
And with all three of us, we got to combine this for something bigger and better. And it's a mosaic, right? It's something like beautiful. It takes all these little pieces and makes this big piece of art. And we went through a bunch of different ideas for names, but I was like, that is the one, man.
That's
like,
cool.
It's just this feeling of like, we bring something different. We have different expertise and areas of experience. And so that was kind of the vision.
I like that.
It's just been so cool, man. I just want to keep riding this wave. I've seen myself and other people get excited about something for a while and then it kind of just fizzles out. And I feel like this is so different for me and I want this to just continue. Like I want to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and better. I also get really nervous about that because the same reason why we've been able to do so well is because other companies either get too big and they can't keep the quality all the way down or they just they don't want to adapt or there's different things. And so now that's my brain's working on that all the time. It's like, how do we keep this magic?
Right.
Cause I want to create a company that we can have different divisions of, have a commercial division, have a real estate division, have a creative space in the middle where we can, then the three of us can go and do documentaries or whatever we want to do, have that a flexible space in the middle and then get these two pieces on somewhat autoplay, but with the same vision all the way from the top to the bottom, which is super freaking hard, right?
Yeah.
Because
God, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Like that's the vibe group.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at residential, commercial, property management, business brokering. Like I'm looking to grow this thing, but it's scary.
Well, it's just hard because, you have to find people and we've been working on building out our team, but I'm super intentional about it. And all three of us are, and you have to figure out what incentivizes people because I can't pay them $1 million. Right. And it's hard to figure that out. So you got to find people that are hungry, dedicated, see the bigger picture, which is very hard to find sometimes. Like if you come with us, you're going to see how the best does it. And what are those little tiny things? I think about like, I took this advanced sales course years ago, and they talked about like the Ritz-Carlton experience.
Yep.
What are those little attributes that you walk into any Ritz-Carlton, you're going to get the same treatment every time, And I started, my first sales job was at Nordstrom selling shoes. Same thing, right? It's like these little things you do transcend everything, and they speak to people no matter who they are when they're walking in. And so that's the mentality I have, but it's the other piece of like incentivizing people because we're a small company. We don't have like a 401k or anything yet. I'm working on all those things, but it's hard, because we want to make the most money we can so we can then do those things.
Offer that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the intentionality and I feel like I'm getting really old all of a sudden because I'm like, these young kids don't know, like nobody wants to work hard anymore and stuff, but it's
a different culture,
but I think it's on us to tap into that because there is something there. It's just different than what we know. So it's like, how do we figure out what that is that drives the different generation?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
What drives you?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Because I think that the parents have been really removed just because of all the distractions of cell phones and everything.
Yeah.
So that relationship, that communication has lacked over the last number of years. And I think getting back to that and just asking people, what do you really want to do?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I'm
and
sure
how.
you see it with your kids because you got kids in in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, one could be super driven, one could be stagnant, and you don't know why. And you're trying to tap into these things like, but
Mhm.
I look at it as with athletics. It's like I want to build the most badass team that wants to run through fences and I have to slow them down.
That's right.
I can't give you a kick in the ass every time. I want you to do what I expect of you, because
Right.
that's exhausting.
Right.
And your passion, your drive's not there. So it's tapping into everything else. Like, what do and I've had this with employees too, where, I would find out what are your goals, because I need to know what inspires you outside of here so I can help you achieve this to get there.
Yeah. My
Without
question.
that, there's none of this.
Yeah.
You're not going to do anything great because you don't have any vision or passion. And some people don't, and that's okay. But I would, if you want to be on my team, we're going to do some work, you know?
Yep. So my question to one of my associates is, what are you doing today to get you closer to your jet? What are you doing today to get you closer to your mansion that you want?
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like not working on what you currently have, but what are you doing to build your business today?
Yeah.
Like not
Yeah.
being satisfactory, satisfied with what you have going right.
Yeah. And your brand, building your brand is a compilation of things of understanding who you are and what you want to represent. And along the way it changes and you got to be okay with that and understand it. But it helps you like really dive into who you are and what you want to do. And then this is the vehicle to get there. These are the things you put in place to do what you want to do. Like, I mean, we're lucky because we enjoy our jobs, but not everybody does.
Right.
And you'll come across people in the industry that are just doing, they're afraid of risk to do something different or whatever. They're doing the same thing, but you got to figure out a way to make that work for the bigger picture for everybody.
Right.
But yeah, I think it comes down to asking good questions. Like, I think I've said this before on here, but I used to tell my salespeople, get to a point where you tell them what to buy versus ask them what they want to buy. And the only way you can do that is by asking good questions, because you have the authority at that point to say, based on what you told me, this is the perfect fit for you. And I'll tell you why. You said you like to go do this and da. Otherwise, you're like, do you like this? No. Do you like that? It's just a waste of time for everybody.
Yeah. That's that initial buyer's appointment, meeting up with them and saying, okay, we're going to go through this. It can be changed at any time, but I will, send you properties according to these parameters, and we'll go look at those homes, you know? And so it's really filtering and getting down and doing your job as the real estate agent. When they do send you something that's maybe not on that list, just say, okay, so this is why this is not on here. Are you willing to give that up?
Yeah.
Before we spend our time, going and looking at something. So it's really, keeping them in, reined into what they want, so
yeah. Well, and that's challenging too. I bet, like in the beginning, people want everything, but then you got to like work with their expectations and what they really care about. Like I always say, like my first house didn't have a garage. Wasn't a big deal until a year in or whatever.
So you
like,
didn't have a garage.
Yeah. And so it's just, you got to, and you got to realize that it's not going to be your forever house. That's fine.
Right.
And it's still, like I was telling these guys in the break, it's like buying a property is such a big benefit to your life. You might not see it right away, but that money, like this is yours. Like you own this and this is your piggy bank, and it's going to continue to evolve. And there's things you can do to continue to utilize that money. That first purchase goes so much further versus renting, It's tough. And I get it. People are not always in the position, but if you can bust your ass and keep your head down and look at that bigger picture, it's going to help you out a long way.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that the misconception that renting is for them. And sometimes that's the case just because they don't want the responsibilities, but I try to have conversations with those people and just say, hey, this is the long-term benefit of actually owning a home.
Yeah.
Like I understand that and understand why you don't want to do that, but there are properties out there where you don't have to do that kind of stuff, where you can start making some money. So, you can get into a condo, you can get into a townhome that has very little maintenance that you have to worry about. There's ways to start creating some wealth in real estate, with not having to worry about that. Yeah. And that's actually converted, so I know, having those kind of conversations, being a true professional, like I'm looking out for your best interest in the long run.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so, that's the importance of having someone that truly has your back for the long run. So
Yeah, it's so fun, man. Like I really enjoy remodeling homes and stuff, and it's kind of like helped me along the way because I can walk in now. Like I can walk into any room and see the photo, right? And I've always had that ability, but like that helped me with remodels too because I would walk in and be like, "Can we knock this wall out? Is this load bearing?" And I can see the vision. I would teach myself how to do all the remodel stuff based on my vision. So I taught myself how to do tile and sheetrock and plumbing and all this stuff.
yeah.
But then like the benefits of that in the long run, when I flipped that last house, we doubled it, and it was awesome.
Yeah. It's being able to see that,
Yeah.
so, and in turn, having a real estate agent, I mean, you see it,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't see that. And so you have to be that advisor or interior decorator even,
Yeah.
just saying, hey, this is what you can do potentially here. You'd have to, of course, go through a general contractor and figure out if this truly is a load bearing wall or not.
Right.
But this is what you could do.
Yeah.
And, I've seen some pretty incredible things happen in some homes that were maybe closed off that just look incredible. Vaulted ceilings,
Yeah.
whatever it is, like a full wall of windows, accordion doors, like just all these things that just look amazing.
Well, and it's super important too to like even I work with Nancy Kelly at Harcourts. I've known her forever, and she's helped me buy and sell homes. And she would take us most of the time. She was pretty spot on, but every once in a while, she would take us somewhere, and she's like, "This is not what I thought it was going to be. You can look at it, but I don't think this is for you." And like that's okay too. That I give her more respect out of that, versus just like
Push in.
do you like it? Is this okay?
Yeah,
It's like, no,
right.
she knows right off the gate. And I'm like, you're right. Like one of the houses is just like crazy, super steep driveway. And it's like a gauntlet to get up there. I'm
Yeah,
like,
right,
that's not going
right.
to work for me. Like,
Right.
like I'm not old, but I don't want to go up steps like that every day.
That's right.
Like this one doesn't have a garage. Well, that one's off the list.
Right.
But yeah, like having that like steward of, she's like our guide to this
Right.
process. And that's super important.
Right.
I was going to ask you, so thinking about your dual licensing here, have you implemented anything? So I know like in Washington, you have a buyer's agreement now that they've implemented. Have you done that on the Oregon side as well or anything like that? Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep. And it's, full transparency. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Just to know that the buyers, know that there's a cost behind it,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, they're not going to probably
Right.
have to pay that,
Yeah.
in the long run. I can't guarantee that, but,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, you're probably going to see some help from the seller.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a lot of people really enjoy that. Like it's been a good thing they implemented and it's just straightforward. And that's what everybody's been wanting forever is transparency. I think the NAR stuff came out and there was a lot of like, what does that mean? But then now it's starting to come to, fruition and everybody's got clarity around it. So it's good.
Yeah. I mean, the way I present it to my buyers is just, hey, just like a listing agreement that we have with the sellers,
Right.
we're just doing the same thing with our buyers. We just want to make sure that what our job is as your buyer's agent and what our expectation is of you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that goes over really well.
Yeah.
People are just like, I totally get it.
Yep.
I want to be loyal to you, so I have
And it
no
could
problem.
flush some stuff out, right? Like you're like, we're buying a house. It's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, that's right. There's some sense of urgency there.
Yeah. We're not tire kicking. We're going to find something for you.
Right.
So
right.
that's
Pretty
cool.
driven. So I haven't really had any kickback for it. Just a lot of questions about it. On the flip side, the sellers, going, well, I don't want to pay for that. No,
Yeah.
I don't have to pay for that. And I
Right.
said, well, honestly, you didn't have to before,
Yeah.
so, and that was a dialogue that I had before all this NAR settlement stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, so my fee is this. And in the industry, typically you'll see a buyer agent commission.
Right.
You don't have to pay it,
Yeah.
but in order to get more people through your doors, it's encouraged. So
Yeah.
it's really on you on what you want to do, but that's the after effects of not doing it.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's that's the game. I mean, it's like, do you want this to move or do you want this to sit or what do you want to do?
Right,
Like I tell people
right.
that sometimes with our media stuff. I'm like, yeah, you can do basic stuff if you want basic results,
Right.
or we can do half the selling for you and people can walk in and go, this is exactly what I expected and I'll take it.
Yep.
And we can move on to
Exactly.
the next one instead of, curbing your budget by $300 or $500 or whatever, just to do the bare minimum for your client.
Right.
And then it just sits there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a weird conversation in 6 months. Like it's going to cost us more money because it's going
right.
to sit here. And
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's been
just
good.
mentality. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and it's, just role playing, with yourself, with a coworker, with, some of your trusted, referral partners, just like, hey, I want to be proficient at this. I want to be good. I want to be believable. I, want to be authentic. And so, hey, I want to be good at my craft.
Yeah.
And so,
I was going to ask you, what kind of like networking events and stuff do you go to?
I've been part of Rotary. I've been part of Elks. I've been, there's, Portland entrepreneurs downtown. There's, just a number of them. Commerce.
Yeah. I
Chamber
always
of
like to
Commerce.
ask, cause I try to do as many as I can. I do like the Portland small business group. There's a, Sean Barwig at PPG puts on a monthly happy hour for real estate, in Westland. So I go to that one and that's great. Cause you get insight from people and title and lending and all kinds of stuff and, just great networking opportunities. And then we're a member of the HBA in Salem. So I like to go out and
nice.
like understand what they're doing with all the builders and stuff. It's just, I think it's always beneficial to hear different points of view in the industry, and I try to do as much as possible, but I'm always looking for new stuff.
Yeah. And events,
Yeah.
like doing a bocce ball tournament with, WFG and,
Yeah.
doing events like that,
Yeah.
and then of course hosting. And so, my wife and I host client events all the time and we're inviting other professionals. We do she's been doing this for, I think 6 years now. We do a Oscars event.
Nice.
And so every year it's this last year was 125 people.
Wow.
And it's all just,
That's serious.
it's
Yeah.
friends and professionals.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of we've kind of put a stamp on that as our major networking event a year. And it's done really well for not just us, but for other people. Cause they've created friends and relationships and professionals have met professionals and done business together. And it's, you've got to go into those things bigger than yourself.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You gotta look at the big picture.
Yeah.
You're trying to make an impact on a community, not just in your own pocketbook. Right. So it's unselfishly done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I love that type of stuff. I mean, I was in the events industry for a long time and I've seen the benefits of it. And I just, you can meet people anywhere. It's crazy. I met a client in San Diego that we're going to have a new client.
That's
it's
cool.
like just people meeting people, it's
Right.
like people buy people first. Right. So I always think about that and there's great opportunities there. And I really like the one that Sean puts on because it's all about like collaboration and talking about different and highlighting businesses that help people and it's all good stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, just always looking for opportunities to meet people.
Yeah.
I was that kid growing up. I grew up on a corner and I was always running up and down the corner and meeting new people, saying hi to everybody. So it's been in my blood for a long time just to have conversation.
Yeah. That's
So
like how my grandfather was. He could like walk in anywhere and just become friends with everybody, And I always kind of grew up looking up to him like that. And I don't have that like super outgoing personality. I'm kind of like a slower warm, but then once I'm on, it's like, it's game time, but you never know. Like we went to an open house and we met a guy and then we started doing business with him and then his sister. And then it's just like snowball effects. And it's like, it's so fun to watch this stuff happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were members at like Tumwater. So we go to Tumwater.
It's a great place.
And so we meet people there.
Yeah. It's a fun venue. I've been to a couple concerts out there.
My wife and I, this is kind of a cool concept, but when it's just her and I, we'll go to a bar and sit at the bar. We'll sit on the corner and we'll talk to the people that are to our left or right, whatever, on the opposite corner. It's because it's kind of awkward, right? You're on that corner, and you're kind of eating like right next to each other. So we just
make a night of it.
Make a night of it. So we've actually met quite a few people that way.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty cool. We've some of our best friends now. That's how we met them.
That's awesome.
And so it's just being willing to meet people, going outside of what's comfortable, and just, being
funny.
real.
My wife is super outgoing. Like she makes friends everywhere. So she's like, I should employ her to do sales for us. But it's funny because we went to this little restaurant in Selwood like a month ago, and same thing. We didn't have a reservation. We came in, we ended up at a little corner spot, and most of the time she'd be cool with it, but like it was our date night, right? So she wants some quality time, but this guy is sitting next to me. I start talking to him and I can't stop talking to him the whole time. And she's like, well, that was fun. Like I didn't even get to talk to you. I was like, I didn't know where to stop. Like I was interested because he was like from Wisconsin and I've never been there. And so I'm asking him about stuff. I'm like, hey, what about this? And I just couldn't stop doing it. So but she's just like, okay, I guess we'll do another date night.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, I like the idea of like intentionally doing it. So.
Yeah.
Because I would have not been in trouble that night.
Yeah. So. I've had those nights too.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I got one more question for you. And this is whatever, but like what would you recommend to someone getting into the business? Like what are the 3 things you would say this is what to focus on?
Learn. Be a student. Yeah. I would definitely say be a student, make it your job, make it your career. Like don't get into this thinking that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Go in knowing it's going to be work.
Yeah. And have more savings than you think you should have.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. I would say have 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I've also noticed that a lot of newer agents will have a second job, right? Like bartending or working at a winery, which is actually a good networking opportunity. Sure. So think about the whole picture, right? Mm-hmm. And like other ways you can kind of feed your funnel.
Yeah. Be prepared for unforeseens, so again, financial. Yeah. Find a good mentor, somebody that really cares about you. Yeah. So interview them because they're interviewing you. Yeah. And so interview and really know who you're going to be doing business with.
Well, that's actually an interesting point too, is like, I have a friend that's studying to get his license, and it's like, okay, that's step 1, but then you got to pick where you want to hang it. Right. So that's a whole other process. That's interesting to think about that as well. Is like, how do you pick where you want to go? People move around a lot, but like, yeah, that's a whole other thing. It's culture. It's what kind of, marry what you're looking for. Like look for the culture that represents what you want. Right. Because there's so many different places to go.
Mm-hmm. I've got a friend she's been on her own for a long time. She's been a realtor for 15, 20 years now, and she's had her own brokerage, and she finally just said, I need to have something where I can go into the office. There's high energy. It's not just me. So you do really need to find out what you want. Do you want high energy? Do you want just, pay a desk fee and just be able to go in and have your own space? Do you want a library of training stuff?
Yeah, resources, mentorship.
What do you want?
Right.
Like you got to really know what you want. And I think, at Soldera, I'm just going to, raise their flag again, I think they have a really, really good balance.
Yeah.
They, have all the resources. They put a lot of energy into that. The owners and the principal managing broker picks up the phone. Like it's a solid brokerage.
Yeah.
And
I've even talked to agents that have moved and then they're like, well, this is actually worse. Now I don't have what I had over there. And now they're like, I don't want to go back, but you have transaction coordinators, you got all these little, ancillary things that help out. So
Right.
it's just thinking about that. And I would probably, not that I'm in the industry directly, but it's like I would probably, go through a couple interviews of places and see what you like. Don't take
Yep.
the first one just because, so-and-so likes it.
Right.
So that's always a big thing. And you're not stuck there, but it's good to do some vetting. And like you said, like,
Right.
interview them as much as they're interviewing you
Right.
to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah.
So,
I think the third thing is implement a system, get your systems in place right away.
yeah.
Yeah. Start
You might
out of
not
the
even
gate.
know what those are yet, but
No.
Yeah.
And I think that comes with just going to the right place,
Right.
because they'll point you in the right direction. But that would be something that I would strongly encourage, is just to get a system in place right away that can perform consistency for you.
all right.
Or
Yeah,
help
and
you.
talk to some people that have been there
tools.
for a while and they've got a formula, and that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much
awesome.
for coming out. People can find you on social media.
Yeah. Yep. Social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all over the place.
Right
So,
on. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.